Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime is tottering and all set to fall due to the ongoing civil war in the country. Syrian rebels have reportedly entered the capital, Damascus, marking a significant escalation in the ongoing civil conflict. This dramatic development, which includes the freeing of prisoners from the notorious Sednaya Prison, signals a turning point in the war and has sent shockwaves through the Assad regime. The Syrian civil war began in 2011 following peaceful protests during the Arab Spring. Demonstrators initially demanded political reform and the release of prisoners, but the Assad regime's brutal crackdown led to widespread unrest. Over time, the conflict evolved into a multifaceted war involving various rebel factions, the regime, and international actors. Damascus, as the seat of power for President Bashar al-Assad, has been a stronghold of the regime. Despite significant battles across the country, the capital had remained relatively insulated from rebel incursions until now. The rebels' entry into Damascus represents a symbolic and strategic shift in the conflict. According to reports, opposition fighters launched a coordinated assault on Damascus, targeting key military installations and government buildings. Eyewitnesses described heavy clashes in several neighborhoods as rebels advanced deeper into the city. Rebel groups, including the Free Syrian Army, FSA, and Islamist factions, reportedly participated in the operation. This marks the first time rebel forces have penetrated the city on this scale, challenging the regime's control in its most fortified area. Analysts suggest that the advance is part of a larger offensive aimed at weakening the regime's grip on the capital. One of the most significant outcomes of the rebel advance is the reported storming of Sednaya Prison, located just north of Damascus. Sednaya is infamous for its brutal conditions and has been described by human rights groups as a site of torture and mass executions. Rebels reportedly breached the heavily fortified facility, freeing hundreds, if not thousands, of detainees. The prisoners include political activists, opposition fighters, and civilians arbitrarily detained during the early years of the uprising. For many families, this moment brings a glimmer of hope as they await news of their loved ones. The release of prisoners also has political and symbolic significance. Sednaya has long been a grim symbol of the Assad regime's repression. Its breach is not just a logistical victory but a moral one for the opposition, galvanizing their supporters and demonstrating the regime's vulnerability. The rebel incursion into Damascus poses a direct challenge to the Assad regime. The capital is home to key government institutions, military command centers, and the presidential palace. Losing control of parts of Damascus would be a severe blow to the regime's legitimacy and its ability to govern effectively. The attack on Sednaya further underscores the rebels' capabilities and sends a strong message to both domestic and international audiences. It highlights the regime's inability to secure even its most strategic and guarded facilities. The situation is likely to escalate as the regime responds with intensified military action. Damascus residents have already reported increased airstrikes and artillery shelling in rebel-held areas. The regime is also expected to mobilize its loyalist forces, including Iran-backed militias and Russian military advisors, to regain control. The rebel advance into Damascus could have far-reaching consequences for the conflict. It may embolden opposition groups and encourage defections from the regime's ranks. Conversely, it could provoke a brutal counteroffensive, leading to significant civilian casualties and worsening the humanitarian crisis. Internationally, the development is likely to draw renewed attention to the Syrian war. Regional actors like Turkey, Iran, and Gulf states may reassess their strategies, while global powers like the United States and Russia will closely monitor the unfolding events. The entry of Syrian rebels into Damascus and the freeing of prisoners from Sednaya Prison mark a pivotal moment in the conflict. While it signals a potential turning point, it also raises the specter of increased violence and instability. As the battle for Damascus unfolds, its outcome will have profound implications for the future of Syria and the region.